Get ready, folks, because today we're going way back in time, millions of years back, to explore something pretty fascinating. The story of human evolution.
That's right. Buckle up. We're diving deep into the tangled branches of our family tree with some cutting-edge research.
And it all starts with this research that you sent our way.
Yeah, some really cool new findings.
That's right. And speaking of puzzle pieces,
I love a good puzzle.
let's talk about the source material for our deep dive today. It's called Testo Incollato, which,
I know, right? What a name.
but believe it or not, just translates to pasted text in English.
Pasted text. Doesn't sound very exciting, but I gotta say, the insights it contains are anything but underwhelming.
Okay, so we're going on a deep dive into pasted text today. What's the first thing that jumps out at you?
The timeline for our split from gorillas.
Oh, really?
It's been pushed back significantly. We used to think that split happened around 8 million years ago. But this research,
Yeah.
it puts it closer to 10 million years ago.
Wow, 2 million years. That's
Yeah.
a big difference.
Right. It really changes our understanding of how long ago that branch of the family tree diverged.
Yeah, like discovering a whole lost chapter in our family photo album.
Exactly. And it really highlights how much our understanding of the past can change with new discoveries.
Absolutely. Speaking of family ties, when did we split from chimpanzees and bonobos?
That happened around 6 million years ago.
So hang on a second. We're closer to chimps than gorillas are to us.
You got it.
That's mind-blowing.
Evolution. It's not a straight line. It's more like a branching bush with all sorts of unexpected connections.
So when do we start seeing the human-like ancestors?
Well, let's rewind the clock to about 2.5 million years ago. We find ourselves in Africa,
Okay.
and that's when we meet Homo habilis, the very first member of our genus, Homo habilis.
So Homo habilis is like the original founder of our little club.
You could say that, but here's the thing.
Yeah.
Even back then, it wasn't just one type of hominin walking around. We had other groups like Paranthropus
Wow.
and Australopithecus.
Like a prehistoric family reunion with all sorts of distant relatives.
Exactly. And there's still debate even now about the exact distinctions between Paranthropus and Australopithecus.
Oh, really?
It's a reminder that science, just like evolution, is always evolving.
So we have all these different hominin species hanging out together in Africa. What happens next?
Well, about 2 million years ago, a real game changer enters the scene, Homo erectus.
Okay.
But here's what's interesting. The arrival of Erectus doesn't mean habilis suddenly vanishes.
Oh, so they're still around.
Yeah, they all live together at the same time. It wasn't a simple one-to-one replacement.
So more like overlapping chapters in a long and complicated story.
Precisely. So what makes Homo erectus such a game changer? They were the very first of our ancestors to venture out of Africa.
Oh, wow.
Around 1.7 million years ago. They embarked on this journey that would completely reshape humanity.
It's amazing to think about these early humans leaving their home continent. I wonder why they left. Was it the search for food or a changing climate? Or maybe they were just curious.
Well, we can only speculate, but what we do know is that this out of Africa event was a major turning point. As they spread to new environments, they had to adapt.
Of course.
They had to face new challenges, new landscapes, new opportunities. And that's where we start to see the beginnings of cultural diversity.
So it's not just biological evolution at this point. It's culture and innovation and adaptation as well.
Absolutely. And speaking of innovation, we have to talk about a truly revolutionary discovery, fire.
Okay.
Now, we don't think this happened in a single moment.
Yeah.
More likely, different groups figured out how to control and use fire at different times and in different parts of the world.
Makes sense.
And some groups may have even lost this knowledge and then rediscovered it later.
It's still hard to imagine the impact that fire must have had on their lives.
Oh, yeah.
Suddenly they had warmth, a way to cook, food protection from predators, like unlocking a whole new level of survival.
Exactly. Fire wasn't just a tool. It was a transformative force. It changed the way they ate, socialized, even the way they viewed the world around them.
So Homo erectus is out exploring, mastering fire, leaving their mark on the world. What happens next?
Let's fast forward to about 700,000 years ago. We meet another important character, Homo heidelbergensis.
Okay.
They're descended from Homo erectus, and according to this new research, they're likely the direct ancestor of you and me.
So are we talking about ancestors who actually start to look and act a little more like us?
Absolutely. Homo heidelbergensis was taller than their predecessors, had larger brains, And there are even changes in their ear structure that suggest they may have even started developing complex language.
Interesting. So they're starting to look more like the modern human package.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just like Homo erectus, they love to explore.
Oh, no, that again.
They spread throughout Eurasia, from Africa to East Asia, Europe, Western Asia. And as they ventured into these new territories, they had to overcome new challenges, which led to the emergence of distinct populations with unique adaptations.
So this is where things start to get really interesting. These isolated groups start evolving along different paths.
Exactly. It's like that branching bush analogy coming to life.
And this is where we see the stage being set for Homo sapiens, Neanderthals, Denisovans.
You got it.
Okay, I'm hooked. So these isolated populations are evolving in different parts of the world, setting the stage for the next chapter of human evolution. Where do we go from here? Last we left off, Homo heidelbergensis was spreading out, leading to those distinct human groups. It's like a global family drama.
And remember, evolution.
Yeah.
It rarely goes in a straight line.
Right.
In Europe, Homo heidelbergensis evolved into Neanderthals.
Ah, Neanderthals. It's a name that makes me think of cavemen and a very different kind of human.
Well, that stereotype isn't entirely accurate. Neanderthals were actually quite close to us, genetically, but they were in a unique situation. Compared to other hominins, they lived in a much smaller geographical area.
Smaller territory. But did they have a larger population to make up for it?
Not really. And that's where it gets interesting. They had less genetic diversity, especially later on. It seems they might have experienced a good bit of inbreeding.
Inbreeding? So their gene pool was shrinking, while other populations were expanding and diversifying. Doesn't sound like a recipe for success.
It's a factor to consider, especially in the bigger picture, because while Neanderthals were adapting to Europe, another important event was happening in Africa. Around 315,000 years ago, Homo sapiens, our direct ancestors, they appear.
I always thought the cradle of humankind in South Africa was where Homo sapiens first appeared.
That's what scientists thought for a long time.
Oh.
But recent discoveries in Morocco and other findings in southern and eastern Africa suggest that Homo sapiens actually had a much wider range from the very beginning.
Wow, so Homo sapiens are already making their mark across Africa, while Neanderthals are adapting to Europe.
And there's another twist. Remember Homo erectus?
The first to leave Africa.
Exactly. Well, around this same time, in South Africa, another fascinating hominin appears, Homo naledi.
Okay, a new character enters the story. What's special about Homo naledi?
Well, physically they were smaller than sapiens, with smaller brains. But get this, the research suggests they may have been burying their dead.
Wait, burial rituals? Are we talking funerals 300,000 years ago?
It seems so. Which raises some fascinating questions. Because for so long we thought intelligence was all about brain size. But if Homo naledi, with their smaller brains, were engaging in symbolic behavior like burials...
It challenges our whole understanding of what it means to be intelligent?
Exactly. It's not just brain size. It's the neural networks, the brain structure, how efficiently it's supplied with blood. It seems Naledi's brain, while smaller, was capable of remarkable things.
Okay, so we have Homo sapiens spreading out across Africa, Neanderthals adapting to Europe, Homo naledi maybe burying their dead in South Africa. And we can't forget the Denisovans. Things are getting crowded.
It gets even more complex. Remember Homo erectus interbreeding with Denisovans?
Yeah.
Well, this research shows something else. We now have evidence of a Neanderthal-Denisovan hybrid dating back 90,000 years.
A hybrid. So these different groups weren't just living near each other. They were interbreeding.
That's right. And it wasn't just a one-time thing. Research suggests Homo sapiens were also interbreeding with Neanderthals between 60,000 and 37,000 years ago.
So people today could have Neanderthal DNA in their genes.
If you have European or Asian ancestry, you probably do. It's estimated that people outside of Africa have about 2% Neanderthal DNA.
Incredible. It shows how connected we all are, even across species and time.
And those Neanderthal genes, they're not just sitting there. Some studies say certain Neanderthal genes might be linked to our immune systems.
So our ancient past is shaping our health today. That's amazing. What about the other groups, though? Neanderthals, Denisovans, Homo naledi, what happened to them?
Around 40,000 years ago, Neanderthals disappear from the fossil record.
Neanderthals are close cousins. They're just gone. Makes you think.
It does. The reasons for their disappearance are still debated. But it was probably a combination of factors: climate change, competition for resources, maybe even disease. We don't know for sure.
It makes you realize how fragile existence is, even for a species as successful as Neanderthals. What about Denisovans and Homo naledi?
Denisovans likely went extinct around the same time as Neanderthals, about 40,000 years ago.
And Homo naledi, those fascinating hominins, possibly burying their dead?
That's where the research isn't so clear. There's still debate about when they went extinct. Some scientists think around 60,000 years ago,
Okay.
but more recent findings suggest they could have survived until as recently as 12,000 years ago.
Wow, so they might have been around pretty recently. It shows how much we still don't know about our own history.
And that's what makes it so exciting. Every new discovery brings new questions, and we have to rethink what we thought we knew.
So fast forwarding through time, we've lost Homo erectus Neanderthals, Denisovans, maybe Homo naledi. That leaves just us Homo sapiens.
Exactly. By 40,000 years ago, Homo sapiens is the last hominin standing, ready to become the dominant species on Earth.
But how did we do it? What made us different? We weren't necessarily bigger or stronger.
That's a question scientists have pondered for a long time. There's no easy answer. But it seems our ability to adapt to different environments played a crucial role. And not just physically, but culturally as well.
So it wasn't just about brains or tools.
Those were important. But Homo sapiens developed complex social structures, sophisticated language, and ability for abstract thought. We could cooperate and solve problems in new ways.
So it was our ability to think, communicate, and work together that set us apart.
You could say that.
Yeah.
And with those abilities, Homo sapiens began a journey that would take them to every corner of the globe.
The global expansion of Homo sapiens, the final chapter.
Exactly, and what a chapter it is. Let's explore those incredible migrations and see how Homo sapiens changed the world.
Wow, we've covered so much ground in this deep dive. Early hominins in Africa, the rise of Neanderthals, and the mysterious Homo naledi. But last time, we were talking about Homo sapiens taking center stage.
And they were ready to take over the whole world. Isn't it amazing?
Yeah, it really makes you think about how evolution just takes these twists and turns. But how did we go from one of many to the dominant species? What fueled that incredible expansion?
Well, between 80,000 and 60,000 years ago, Homo sapiens started migrating out of Africa in multiple waves, like Homo erectus did millions of years earlier, but on a much larger scale.
So we were following in our ancestors' footsteps, but with better tools and skills.
Exactly. We had more complex social structures, advanced communication, a capacity for abstract thought, which allowed us to adapt to all sorts of environments and challenges.
Like we unlocked a whole new level of adaptability, an evolutionary advantage that helped us thrive.
And one of the most fascinating parts of this whole expansion is the colonization of the Americas.
Oh, yeah.
Think about it. Between 20,000 and 11,000 years ago, Homo sapiens crossed the Bering Land Bridge, entering a whole new world.
The Americas were a vast, uncharted territory. It must have been an incredible challenge to navigate those landscapes and establish a foothold.
It really shows human ingenuity and resilience. And what's really remarkable is the speed. The colonization of the Americas happened much faster than those earlier migrations across Eurasia.
So we were adaptable, and we were efficient at spreading out and making new homes. But you mentioned another migration, the one from Taiwan to Oceania.
Oh, right. Around 6,000 years ago. After facing pressure from the Han in southern China, a group migrated to Taiwan, but they didn't stay there. They set sail across the Pacific, eventually reaching the islands of Oceania.
Crossing the Pacific. That's incredible, especially 6,000 years ago. They didn't have modern ships or GPS. How did they do it?
Courage skill, a deep understanding of the stars and the wind and the ocean currents. They used celestial navigation, observing the stars, to guide them across thousands of miles of open water.
It's pretty inspiring. Our ancestors were capable of amazing things, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. So from those early steps out of Africa millions of years ago, we've come a long way. We've seen species rise and fall, incredible technologies, and the spread of Homo sapiens across the entire globe.
And the story's not over. Every new fossil, every genetic analysis, it all adds to the puzzle of human evolution.
It's a story that connects every one of us, shaped by evolution, migration, innovation.
And it's a story that should push us to keep exploring, keep asking those tough questions, and never stop learning about who we are and where we came from.
So as we wrap up our deep dive today, I want to leave you with this. Remember Homo naledi and those possible burial rituals. There's still so much we don't know. Keep digging, keep learning. The story of human evolution is far from over. Who knows what amazing discoveries are still out there. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey through time.